All right, exponential modeling part 2, exercise 3. If the population of a town is decreasing by 4% per year and started with 12,500 residents, which of the following is projected population in 10 years? So, hint, hint, we need to use our decay equation. So y equals a 1 minus r to the t. So we're looking for our end population. Our start population started with 12,500. 1 minus 4% to the 10 years. So that wasn't terrible. So pause the video, find your answer. So what you'll notice when you do it on a calculator is this calculator defaults to a fraction. So one of the ways to convert it to a decimal is just to hit Control Enter. You could also, when you are on it, when you're typing it in, if you put anywhere in here, I believe a decimal, it'll convert it to a decimal right away because we never want a fractional answer for this type of a question. So our answer is 8,310, which is choice 4. Now, you can't have 0.4 of a person, you can't have 0.6 of a person, doesn't matter. You have to round down, or how many whole people do you have. So if this was a 0.6, I would still have the same answer. That's hard for you guys. You want to use your rounding rules. All right, exercise 4. The stock price of Wind Power Inc. is increasing at a rate of 4% per week. The initial value was $20 per share. On the other hand, the durable energy is crashing at a rate of, so it's losing value at a rate of 11% per week, and if its price was 120 per share when wind power was 20, so they're telling me that's the initial, after how many work weeks are they the same? And they're telling me to do this graphically. Well, if I do it graphically, I have to show everything on that graph and label. Okay? So first, let's write the equations. So wind power, I'm going to write it as W of X, which is starts at $20 and it's raising or increasing at a rate of 4%. So 1 plus 4% to the X. Now I have the pleasure of different colors. So now we're going to do durable energy, G of X, which equals 120, 1 minus, because it's losing 11% to the X. Okay? So I'm going to, this one is W, this one is G. Now we're going to graph. So grab that graphing calculator. Make sure if you have anything on it, you start new. And here's the cool thing I'm going to do. I'm going to change this to a W. Put in my 20 parentheses. 1 plus 4% raised to the X. Tab. I'm not going to worry about the screen until I fix it. And I'm going to change this one to a G. And that was 120, parentheses 1 minus 11. Oops, forgot my percent. Raised to the X. And again, I can't see on my screen, but remember again, your values. So I'm going to change this to 500. Woo! Perfect. And I'm going to change this one to, I don't know, 50. Hit tab because we're talking about stock price and time. We're going to make 0 and 0. We only want quadrant 1. It looks like my 500 is too high. So I'm going to try 150 because the initial start was 120. So I'm just going to, ooh, very nice. Now mine are the same color. So if you right click on it, you should be able to change its color or go to, how about another way? If you go to menu, actions, Can we change color here? Attributes. There we go. Nope, we can't change color there. Alright, well I can right click. Hopefully you can too to change color, or you can figure it out and tell me. I'm going to change this from the red. So I have a red and a blue. Now I need to find out where they're equal, so I'm going to do menu, analyze, intersect. I'm going to go on the low side, and I'm going to go to the high side. And again, my decimals might not be accurate, so menu, settings. Again, I don't know why this is on fixed 1. So I want it on float and hit make default. Okie dokie. So there's my intersection, and it's in black. So now I need to get this onto the paper. So why don't you pause the video and get it onto the paper, and then continue the video to make sure that you got all the pieces just like I did. Alright, so hopefully you've labeled the x and the y-axis. Hopefully you have your scales on there, you have your y-intercepts, you have the intersection point, and hopefully you labeled both exponentials. So what is our answer to this? After how many weeks will the stock price be the same? You can say week 11.5. Normally it would say maybe had a round, or you could even cover yourself by say during week 11.5, or even during week 11, by week 12, something like that. Okay? And the price would be what? $31.40 if they had asked us that also. Alright? Okay, let's try this last one. Why don't you pause the video and read those 2 paragraphs before we go to exercise 5. Alright, exercise 5. An investment with a yearly interest rate of 5% is compounded at different frequencies. Give the yearly rate accurate to 2 decimal places for each of the following compounded frequencies. Show your calculations. Alright, we are going to use the compounded equation. So it is 1 plus your rate over the number of times it's compounded n times t. And we're only caring about that middle part, or the parenthesis part. So quarterly would be 1 plus our rate is 5% over 4. And we have to use the n in the exponent too. We don't necessarily have to do the time. If we wanted to do the time, we could do it to the first power. So go ahead, pause, do that in your calculator. And this says to do it to 2 decimal places. So our yearly rate is still 5% because it was only compounded quarterly, or 4 times a year. Why don't you go and try to do your monthly and your daily, and then continue the video. Hopefully you got those answers to B and C. If not, make sure you ask in class. Exercise 6. A person invests $500 in an account that earns a yearly interest rate of 4%. How much would this investment be worth in 10 years if the compounding frequency was once per year? So we're just going to use, since it's once per year growth, we could use compounded, and for n, use 1, but y. So y equals 500, 1 plus 4% to the 10th. And remember, this is money, so it go 2 decimal places. So we have our account will grow to $740.12. Now, if on the other hand, the interest was applied 4 times per year, calculate how much the investment would be worth after 10 years of quarterly quarterly compounding. So now we have to use that other equation. So y equals 500, 1 plus, now we have 4%, and we have to divide by compounded quarterly, which is 4, and raise it to the 4th, times 10. And again, remember it's money, so 2 decimal places. And you'll notice you have a little bit more money, so $744.43. So the more you compound your interest, the more money you're making overall, because you're making money on your interest. I hope that makes sense. If not, definitely ask in class. All right, our last one for this part is compounding interest. So a person invests $350 in a bank account that promises a rate of 2% continuously. That's a huge, big, important word. Write an equation for the amount of this investment will be worth after 2 years. So y equals 350. Our base is E because it's continuously, and it's 2%, and our time is X. Okay? Or T, either one. How much would this investment be worth after 20 years? So X is 20. So y equals 350E, 2% times 20. And again, 2 decimal places. So y equals $522.14 after 20 years compounded continuously. So now it says algebraically determine the time. Now we have to do the exponent. It will take for the investment to reach 400. Round your answer to the nearest tenth. Now earlier in part 1 video, we did that graphically. Now we're going to do it algebraically, because in part D it says graphically. Ha ha ha. So 400 equals 350 E 2% X. So just like previous lessons, this is an exponential equation, so we have to get Ben alone. He's got 350 attached to him right now, so we're going to divide by 350. So 400 divided by 350 is 8/7. I'm not going to use a decimal. E 2% X. So now how do I undo Ben? Because this is in Ben form. Base to some exponent equals the number. I'm going to write it in log form. So log base E of 8/7 equals 2% X. Remember, ln, this is ln, and I'm going to divide now by 2%. And I can plug it all in the calculator at once, or I can do it in steps. And it told me to round to the nearest tenth. Since they told me to round, I just write my answer. No during, no by. So 6.7. So now why don't you pause the video and do it graphically. Make sure you label everything. And then continue the video to check to make sure. And then while you're at it, why don't you try part E? And continue the video when you're ready. And here are your answers for part D. Make sure you have everything labeled. And part E, your answer is 2.02%. All right, go to part 3.